Hello, my name is Matt Willis, and I make videos on this channel to make you a stronger and more confident bagpiper. If you like the kind of content you're seeing, please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. The more subscribers I get, the easier it is for me to make videos like this. Now, let's go and tie in a pipe bag. And right now, we're going to tie in to a brand new medium Bannatyne bag. And we are tying in a set of Dave Barnett's homemade stocks right now. He is in the process of building his own business. He's made some great chanter caps, and he's in the process of making an entire set of bagpipes. And I thought this was a great opportunity to put this set of stocks into a bag that I love. I've been playing these Bannatyne bags for years. They're my favorite bag at the moment. This is 2019. And I've been playing the standard Bannatyne synthetic bags now for about 7 years exclusively through all of my sets. And I love the thinness and the performance I get out of them. So we're going to tie into a set now, see how it goes. All right, so we have the bag here. We're going to do our best to not use a knife on this set because we're about to tie into a pipe bag and we don't want any cuts. But let's see what this comes with. So this has never been opened before. So we have a hose clamp, some zipper seal, an O-ring, and some instructions about the lubricant right here. This is going to be for the chanter when we get to the chanter. It comes with a general manual and overview of the entire system right here. Now I'm quite familiar with these, so I'm gonna put this down here because I've done this before. It comes with a very nice bottle trap right here. It's kind of built around a flex tube. This section here is something you're gonna wanna hemp up to fit into your blowpipe stock. So there's the bottle trap itself, and then the final thing is the bag. And Bannatyne's had a number of colors over the years. In recent years, they've gone to a tan. They've gone back to a black, but now they have a blue sticker. It doesn't really matter. For a while, they were putting a date on the inside, and now it looks like they just have a in silver Sharpie number written in here. So I'm sure that number goes to a database on their end because these tend to have a 2-year warranty from the time of purchase. Now it might be a 2-year warranty or whatever from whenever it was manufactured. I'm not sure. I tend to get 4 or 5 years out of one of these bags. They tend to last a good long time. That being said, it's very important that you put a bag cover on their pure synthetic bag. There's no sort of faux leather or any sort of other thing on the outside of this to protect the bag. All right, so when it's time to tie in, I always like to take the bag and to make sure that I'm not putting anything in the wrong place. I like to actually literally put the bag under my squeezing arm when I start. And when I do that, I then take the bass drone stock and find where it's going. It seems like it should be basic and you should be able to figure this out by just having it on a table, but I tie in bags probably 3-ish times a month. And about once a year, when I get careless, I'll put the bass drone stock in the wrong side of the bag. So the bag is already unzipped. We're gonna go through. And I'm just going in from the bottom, pushing it through. I'm grabbing it firmly around the collar. I'm making a ring with my fingers around the bag. I'm not grabbing it somewhere back here and pulling. I don't want to put any undue stress on anything. But this one is a relatively thin stock, and you're going to find that if you have a set of Dunfians, if you have a set of Glens from yesteryear, there's a lot of bagpipes that have thinner stocks. And when that happens, it doesn't mean you can't use one of these bags. But it does mean you're going to have to build up the base of this stock so that it will fit through the bag. So I have here some artificial sinew. This is what I use when I'm using a hide bag to tie in. But it's great. It doesn't swell with moisture. And it's going to allow me to build up the bottom of this stock so that it fits into this collar in a way that is very, very snug and is going to make an airtight fitting. I'm going to grab just a little bit of beeswax right now. I got some right here. And the stock itself is in front of me. I'm going to color in the grooves in the stock. I want to make sure that this artificial sinew is going to get a nice bite. And if you don't need this, I'll put a time code below for where you can just go to get to how to put everything else through. But this is not as rare as you might think. There's a lot of pipes with relatively small stocks. I had a set of Atherton McDougals, absolutely brilliant pipes for many years. And when I used a synthetic bag, I had to do exactly this for the stocks. So we're going to see now if this base stock fits nice and snug in its collar. Again, I'm going to play this under the left arm. If you play it on the right arm, then it would be the opposite side. I'm going to put it through now. Okay, with that, we're getting a pretty good fit right there. Now, I could add some more artificial sinew or anything else. Hemp or what have you. I like to use things that don't like to swell with moisture. That being said, we're going to actually reinforce this with an additional hose clamp when we're done. I have been able to build it up enough that it's nice, it's snug, and it might even be airtight. But if I really pulled on this right now, it would come back out and it might cause a problem. I'm going to grab a little bit of the zipper seal that it comes with. It comes with its own lubricant. You could use all sorts of stuff, but let's use what they come with. And I'm going to take a little of it, put it on my finger. I'm just putting it around the inside of that collar. And that's going to go an enormous way to helping me get the next stock through the bag. And stocks are tapered. I'm going to take a little bit here, and I'm actually going to put it around the very bottom. Not very much at all, but around the very bottom of the stock. And now I'm going to fit it through from the inside. I'm going to push it through. And that's an entirely different experience with just that little bit of lubricant from this T-zip, tie-zip, however it's said. Now we got it through, and this stock is a slightly wider stock than the base, and I think it's fitting really nicely. That is going to be airtight. It doesn't want to readily spin. I can get it to move ever so slightly if I try, but it doesn't want to spin in its collar, and that's great. If it wants to just readily turn in the collar, again, you might want to take some sort of artificial sinew and build it up. Maybe even go to an auto parts store and buy a couple of these hose clamps or Jubilee clamps if you're in the UK to tighten them down with. All right, so I went ahead and put the other TENOR stock in. It went just as well as this other one. So we're going to move on to the blowpipe stock next. I always do the CHANTER stock last. Now, on a lot of sets, just real quick, with the blowpipe and CHANTER stock. Now, Dave here has made the two, they're markedly different, and that's fine. But sometimes they're really, really quite close. I actually had a number of months where I could not quite get my CHANTER in tune. And when I realized I had actually tied in my blowpipe stock on my Crohn's instead of my CHANTER stock, the blowpipe stock is always the shortest. Put your stocks out, stand them up. If you need to put your blowpipe stock off to the side, do that so you know which one it is. Because in the moment, even me, and I had done this, I had tied in at least 100 bags at this point, and I still made that mistake. And the stocks are not random tubes. These are very important. The length and diameter of the stock matter an awful lot for the tone you're going to get. So, of course, I couldn't quite get my CHANTER in tune when I was using a blowpipe stock for my CHANTER. I'm going to go ahead, because I can see this is the same diameter as the TENOR's, I'm going to add just a little bit of the zipper lubricant right around the top of the collar. And again, I'm going to do the same thing right around the base, because again, these are tapered. So I'm going to add a little bit around the base of the stock, not the base stock, but the base of the blowpipe stock. And we're going to put this in. Now, if this was a hide bag, there's some tricks you can do to try to angle the blowpipe stock back at you. In my experience with synthetic bags, that doesn't tend to work so well. So we're going to talk when we're done here about what you can do to try to angle it back towards you, but it's not going to be at this part of the process. We're moving on to the CHANTER stock. So in a synthetic bag, they tend to be fairly easy. Dave's pipes right here are pretty normal in that it has a normal groove to receive an O-ring. There's several ways to do this. I've tried them all. My favorite is still to put the O-ring in the groove of where you would normally tie in on a leather bag. I'm going to go ahead and put it around the top of the stock and then work it down from the top to the bottom so it fits right in that groove. So now it's in the groove. We're going to want to make sure that this clamp, this hose clamp or Jubilee clamp, is right around the O-ring with the bag between them when we go to fasten everything and make it nice and tight. If you're a tall person, you're going to want to have this toward the end of the neck of the bag. So here's the bag. You're going to want it slightly toward the end. If you're a short person, I'm only 5'6", mine tend to be pretty far in. The farther down you have it attached is the farther you're going to have to reach for your chanter. No one has to reach too far. We all want it comfortable. Now, this is not for me. It's for my good friend Dave, and he's far taller than I. How tall are you, Dave?
6'1".
So I have the O-ring sitting right in the groove. I'm going to put it through the bag. And I thought I was prepared, but you know what I don't have? A screwdriver. All right, I have my trusty screwdriver. That being said, if you're clumsy or you haven't done this a bunch, you might not want to use a screwdriver. These hose clamps have hex fittings on the end. If you have a small socket set, you can get the appropriate size socket, and that's going to be perhaps safer, because if you're putting your screwdriver in here and you miss, you could puncture your bag. I trust that I'm not going to do that, and I've done this enough. I'm not worried. But if you're in any way concerned, don't use a screwdriver to tighten this. Use a hex wrench, a socket of some sort to put it on. My friend Dave, who this set is for, is a taller guy. So we're going to put it toward the end of the neck here. And I'm going to go ahead, and you can kind of see where the O-ring already is. I don't know if it's coming through on the camera as well as it does in real life. But right there is a nice ridge where it's coming through. And I just want to make sure that this hose clamp is right over that. I'm going to go ahead and start tightening it just slightly. All right, there we go. I think that's going pretty good. I can feel that it's completely over the O-ring, and yet it's not so tight I can't move it. I can kind of adjust, like it's a little high on this side, and it's a little low on the other side. I want it nice and level over the whole thing. I want it perpendicular and completely over that O-ring. So take a minute or two. There's no need to rush through this. And what I'm looking for in this fit right here is that I'm going to grab just right above the clamp, and I'm going to see if I can spin the stock, and I can still spin the stock. I'm going to go ahead and turn it 1/2 turn because it turned fairly easily. I'm going to grab it again and see if I can. It's much harder to turn. I'm now going to put the screwdriver in, or if you're using a ratchet, I'm now going to turn it 1/4 turn. These clamps can provide a tremendous amount of force on this stock. And we do not want to crack our piece of wood. I am not interested in that. I want an airtight fitting. I am not interested in breaking anything. So I'm going to, again, grab it just above with the clamp. I'm going to go to turn it. I can't turn it anymore. Before we do anything else, you have your T-zip out right here. We need to go ahead and lubricate the zipper. I've seen a number of ways to do it. I'll tell you the way I've always done it. I like to go with the lubricant along one side of the zipper in a fairly solid line of goo that comes out of it, all the way down just one side of the zipper. And then when I get to the receiving end, there's a number of little dots where you're going to receive. When the zipper's closed, it's going to stop. I like to make sure that those dots are all filled in with the T-zip. And then I feel I'm done. I'm going to grab the zipper, and I'm going to grab the entire bag. I'm not just like grabbing the bag over here. I'm grabbing I can feel the material under my hand. When I go to zip this, I am not trying to put undue pressure on the bag. I want this thing to last a long time. So I want to support it. And then I go back and forth, and I'm doing something very similar. I'm grabbing not just one little part over here. I'm grabbing a lot of the bag, supporting the bag, and I'm unzipping it. And now, when I look down, even though I only put the lubricant over here, there's quite a bit over here. I'm going to go back and forth about 5 times right now. That's nice and tight. Make sure it's nice and fully closed, which this one is. And now we're ready to test the bag. All right, for testing the bag, you're going to have some corks ready. We're going to go ahead and use some black corks, and I'm going to put them in the drones, and I'm going to put them in the chanter. I am not going to put it in the blowpipe because we need to inflate this bag to make sure that everything is going to be airtight. And I'm going to do a future review about my favorite valve, but I'll tell you right now, spoilers, my favorite valve by far is the moose valve. So I'm going to put this moose valve in here because you have to have a valve if you're going to test a bag. All right, so that's in. The zipper's done. Dave has already provided us a lovely blowpipe right here. So we're going to put that in, and we're going to inflate this bag, and fingers crossed, everything's airtight. That happened. All right, this is a good test. I love it. It was tight until it wasn't. And in this case, we're testing a bag and we're trying to make sure it's airtight. And we had a bit of a failure. We caught it on film. We're going to fix it right now. We'll be back in a second. I've added just a little bit more material to the bottom of this, and then we're going to put a separate hose clamp on. Once we put this on, there will be no problems in the world, and we will test it and prove it. So I'm going to put this screwdriver away, and we're going to do another test on this bag. Helps if you zip it up. And if you've played pipes for any length of time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, we're all zipped up. Let's do this. So the bag is just as tight as before. It's super tight. That's not turning. That's not turning. That's not turning. That's not turning. This is not turning. I can't blow any extra air into this if I tried. All right, a part I didn't get to last night that I like to finish up with when I'm tying in these bags is using some rescue tape or some sort of self-amalgamating tape. You can use electrical tape as well. It just tends to be stickier and messier. I like this because it's a little bit cleaner. But what I want to do is to ensure that we have a nice airtight fit right around the stock and the bag, we're going to wrap both the stock and the bottom of the bag, and we're going to actually go up high enough to cover the hose clamp here. And on Dave's set, what we ended up doing before the end of the night is we used some of this tape as well on the hose clamp that we put on the bass drone, because we don't want anything to perhaps puncture or damage the bag, and the ends of these hose clamps can have sharp metal bits that can bad news for a pipe bag. So I'm going to take, I don't know, about 14, 15 inches of this rescue tape, cut it, and it has a backing. We'll go ahead and peel that off. And the way this stuff works is you kind of stretch it as you put it on. So I'm going to hold it in place with my thumb and start stretching it around. And it sticks to itself, not to other stuff, so you have to kind of hold it in place as you're starting. And now I'm going to wrap it. So I started around the bag. Excuse me, I started around the stock. Now I'm wrapping it up the bag. And I'm going all the way up to over the hose clamp, just so I can try to protect the bag from the sharp metal bits there. And you can see that 14 inches stretches to quite nicely cover this whole apart. So now you can see it's gonna help keep it airtight here. It's gonna keep that from getting damaged. So that's great. So taping that can be very helpful. And the final thing I want to talk about was what I addressed with the blowpipe stock earlier, is a way to angle the blowpipe back towards your mouth so that when you're playing, the blowpipe, if it were to come out, doesn't pop out and, you know, well, maybe even fling spit into your audience. But at worst, have to take a hand off your chanter to put the blowpipe back in your face. So what I like to do is I make actually two, let's see if we can see this. I make two collars of sorts out of zip ties, and I use about 3 zip ties, and I go around the base of both the blowpipe and the base stock, and then I use some of my artificial sinew, and I actually tie a knot. I kind of loop it through these two collars, and the collars are somewhat loose. I get a little bit of flexibility there. I find that I have about 5 fingers when the knot's tied between the two, and that gives me a nice angle. You can adjust this however you need to, though. You can make this as long or as short as you need, and you're just going to have to play test it and see where that blowpipe is falling when you go to inflate the bag. If it's still too far out, you're going to want to shorten this distance. If it's too far down and it's below your chin, you made it too short, you're going to want to make it longer. You can, if the zip ties scare you, because they can have kind of sharp edges, you can either cover them in some more rescue tape, or you can actually just use the tie-in cord around the whole thing. I like that there's kind of a little bit of extra wiggle room here. I can adjust slightly the degree here, and I haven't had any problems with it damaging the bag. But you do what works for you in your world. But that's a great way of getting that blowpipe back where you need to have it when you're playing. Well, there you go. There was tying in a synthetic bag. Almost all the synthetic bags are going to be very similar. This happened to be a Bannatyne, but a CANMORE or any of the other brands are going to be very, very similar. If you want to go ahead and send me a bag, let me know, and I'll happily show your brand of bag being tied in. If you found this useful, please think about giving this video a like, sharing the video with anybody that you might think could get some use out of it, and most importantly, please subscribe to the channel here. Subscribing really helps me keep making videos like this. I'm having a blast doing it, and I look forward to doing another one here soon. So, until next time, everybody, Matt Willis Bagpiper, take care.